Egg cartons and toilet paper rolls can be complete disasters for starting seeds indoors if you don't know the tricks for using them. So save yourself the headaches and watch this video before getting started. Hi, I'm Valerie and welcome back to Now Gardening. Following my recent video on seed starting indoors, I received many comments that said, well, wait a minute, what about egg cartons and toilet paper rolls? You forgot to mention those. So why does everybody want to use egg cartons and toilet paper rolls for starting seeds? Well, most of us have extras lying around and we would love to find a way to use them. And in fact, we feel good about using them because we're reusing something that we would otherwise throw away or put in the recycling bin. So why not use them for starting seeds indoors? Well, for one, they can be a major headache and completely ruin your seed starting if you don't know a few tricks for using them that I'll show you today. Also, as with any seed starting setup, there can be upsides and downsides of using them as seed starting containers. So I'll tell you about some of the disasters that I've had over the years that taught me what not to do, and I'll also show you my setup this year and how it's going. Finally, I'll give you my opinion on using these two in seed starting, which actually might shock you. So now let's go out to my potting area and get these ready to sow. So now I'm out at my potting table. I'll apologize if there's a flare behind me because the sun is right overhead right now. But let's start with toilet paper rolls. I'd love to hear in the comments down below if you have a clever way of using them, but for now, here are my tricks. First, I like to cut the rolls in half and arrange them tightly in a container that will keep them from falling over. See the size of this one here? The container is the perfect height for the rolls. Some people use rubber bands to hold them in place, but I think this works better. And now why did I cut them in half? You'll see in just a moment when I start potting them up, but first let's talk about the soil mix. I'm going to use a 3-to-1 mix of soil and Coconut Coir, and I'm going to wet it. Why did I use 1 part of cocoa or coconut coir? That's to hold in the moisture so I don't have to water as often. Since toilet paper rolls are fragile and will fall apart after too much water, I want to use just the right amount to nourish the seed and eventually the seedling without it all falling apart. Why am I wetting it? Well, here's what happens if you use it dry. Now let's compare that to the wet mixture. And pay attention because here's a cool trick that works great when the soil is damp. This is where using half the roll is ideal because it makes it a lot easier to fill without breaking or damaging the fragile cardboard.
When I use full paper towel rolls, I find that they're much more unstable.
Now let's check out the difference between the dry and damp mixtures. The difference is pretty impressive, especially if you need to move it. How do I make sure the seed germinates? I'm going to make a hole in the middle, place the seed, and cover it up. Until the seed germinates, I will use a spray bottle to keep it moist on top. Since we're starting with damp soil, you might not even have to water it if you plant something quick to germinate like lettuce. How do I water the toilet paper rolls after the seedling is up? I use a small watering can with a pointed tip and water the soil, careful not to overwater or splash the seedling. We'll come back to these later. Let's move on to egg cartons. And if this video has been helpful so far, please hit the like button down below. Egg cartons are, well, I think it's easier to just show you. This is day 1. I planted them and I watered the seeds using a spray bottle. Day 2, the seeds are already dry, so I spray them again and I put them back on the heat mat. Day 3, the seeds are once again dry, so I try a different approach, which is actually watering them using the watering can. I have to be very careful not to overwater because from experience I know that the egg carton will fall apart. 2 days later, the seeds have still not germinated and the mixture is once again dry. At this point, I water it one more time and I put it under a plastic cover. Right away, within a day, the seeds finally germinate. Meanwhile, these onion seeds that I planted in toilet paper rolls in early February are going strong. In summary, it's best to cover both toilet paper rolls and egg cartons with plastic while the seeds are germinating. However, with egg cartons, it's absolutely indispensable. So what's my overall takeaway about starting seeds in toilet paper rolls or egg cartons? Let's start with egg cartons. Personally, I hate starting seeds this way. Starting seeds and in gardening in general, I like to keep things simple and easy. And egg cartons are just not it for me. They dry out quickly, or if you water them too much, they fall apart, and the seedling, once it's up, needs to be repotted almost immediately, otherwise it gets stunted because the container is too shallow. As for toilet paper rolls, while they do require a little bit of know-how to get right, they aren't too difficult to use once you get the hang of them. And although it's debatable, you can also argue that the seedling is less disturbed when you pot it up because you're not taking it out of its original container. Personally, I still prefer my reused yogurt containers and recommend tossing those egg cartons in the compost. I'm kind of on the fence about toilet paper rolls, so I will let you decide.